Welcome to Santino's World. As always, I'm Santino DeFranco, and with me is Kamuela, the Kamuela Kirk, who doesn't know if he's Hawaiian or Jamaican.
So just combine the two, get the best of both worlds.
And
some people thought that I was Jewish. They're like, yeah, Hawaiian, Jewish and Jamaican, right? I said, not quite. Or Jewish and Hawaiian.
Don't quit your fighting career for stand-up.
That's not a joke. That conversation actually took place. Anyways, all right, let's get right into it.
Okay, so we got a quick episode today because we got to do some fight breakdowns. We have Chris Weidman is fighting Dominic Reyes this weekend.
Yeah, big fight.
Which is a big fight. That's a big fight for both of them. You know, Dominic Reyes, if he can beat a big name opponent like Chris Weidman, that's going to catapult him into title contention to where maybe he can do something. Chris Weidman has been on a skid lately, and he hasn't looked the same since we saw him fight Anderson. Since he fought
true.
Anderson, I think he had back surgery or neck surgery, and he has not looked the same.
He's had a couple of good performances, but just can't seem to put together a winning streak.
He can't. We'll get back to that in a second. We also have round three of Jair, Jeremy Stevens, because they fought, sort of. It was like 15 seconds in, eye poke. Fight's called off. Mexico crowd starts throwing stuff at Stevens. The next day, Jair goes up to Stevens, seems like he's gonna talk with him. Hey, we're cool. How's everything going?
Right. Basically, I think he kind of went to check on how his eye was doing, kind of a thing. But it was like a cordial, hey, what's up type of thing. And
flipped the script.
Yeah, Stevens was.
No, Jair was the one that flipped the script. Jair went up to Stevens like he was going to not apologize, but like, hey, how are you doing? How is your eye?
Oh, is that what happened?
Yes. And then Jair, I don't know, midway through whatever he was doing, was like, nah, I'm going to talk shit to you. I'm still mad.
Okay, see, I was under the impression that he went up to Stevens to kind of check on him. See, I must have heard the story wrong because I thought that he went to check on him to see how he was doing, and Stevens wasn't having it.
No, the opposite. Jair went to check Jair went to check on Stevens, but then decided to talk shit to him instead.
Isn't this whole thing kind of weird? Don't you think if you were the one to eye poke your opponent to the point where the doctor had to stop the fight, don't you think you'd be a little bit more apologetic?
Maybe.
Or feel a sense of guilt, like, hey, I'm the one that poked you. You know what I'm saying? Unless he truly feels like Stevens was looking for a way out.
I think I would. So we've got that one. We'll get back to that in a second. And then, so those are a couple predictions. You know, we're going to talk about those fights that are upcoming here. But then we've got some past fights we want to talk about. Israel Adesenya.
Yeah, a couple big fights have happened over the last few weeks.
And Robert Whittaker, which was nuts. What do we do now? Where does Israel Adesanya go from there?
Yeah.
And then
maybe Jon Jones?
Maybe Jon Jones.
Super fight?
But then we've got, the other one is Dan Hooker and Iaquinta.
Man, what a performance by Hooker. That was incredible. Honestly, I thought Al was going to win.
Yeah, so did I. I mean, Hooker catapulted himself. He leveled up. He leveled up on there.
That was a big win for him.
So those are big fights coming up. And then we had, the fights we're going to talk about. Then we had Joanna and Michelle Waterson, which was a pretty impressive fight too.
Yeah.
It was really one-sided, but Michelle Waterson had some moments.
She had her moments, displayed a ton of heart. She's as tough as they come.
I think more than anything, the thing to talk about that fight is Joanna looks good. She looks like she's back. She lost to Rose a couple times, went up a weight class and lost, and now it looks like she's back in a form.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So let's talk about past fights, and we'll talk about upcoming fights.
Cool. Can't forget about Kron and Cub as well.
Kron and Cub. We've got to do this quickly, people. We don't have too much time, but again, I'm flying out of town tomorrow, so I want to get this going now. And Kron and Cub. God, I almost forgot about Kron and Cub.
There have been so many fights. It's hard to keep track. All
right, the big one. If we could only talk about one, we're talking about Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker. That came out of nowhere. And I say that. People say, no, Israel Adesanya has been the truth forever, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I don't care. His performance against Kelvin Gastelum was not as impressive, and nowhere near. Not even the same person, not the same level, not the same fighter. His performance against Robert Whittaker was 10 times leveled up again, than that Kelvin Gastelum fight. And I thought it was going to be a lot more competitive than it was.
Yeah.
just based on that Gastelum fight alone.
See, it's funny that you say that because I kind of feel the opposite, actually. I kind of feel like, and this isn't to take anything away from Izzy. Izzy is an incredible striker. We all know that. I actually thought that Whittaker did a pretty good job disrupting Israel's rhythm throughout the fight. You could see there were times where Israel would want to get off
the whole 6 minutes of the fight.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, up until he got dropped and then got knocked out, I had Whittaker winning both rounds up until he got dropped. I had him winning the whole first round, and then he got saved by the bell. So then you have to give it to Israel right there at the end when he got dropped.
We were talking about that at the fight. We were there. Like, I was sitting there, I think it was actually Henry Cejudo. We were sitting there talking, and he's like, who do you have? What's going on? It was about 4.5 minutes into the round. And I was like, I think I have Whittaker win it. And he's like, me too, right here.
Same. And
then he dropped him, and it was like,
oh, then you have to do the round.
Like, all right,
because he literally got saved by the bell. If there were 3 to 5 more seconds on the clock, Israel would have followed up, the ref would have stopped the fight.
But that said, it was a close round, that first round. I thought Whittaker was winning it, but I thought that was a pretty close round. It wasn't
one-sided by any means. I just felt like Whittaker did a good job disrupting Israel's rhythm. Mm-hmm. You could see when Israel gets in that rhythm and he starts picking people apart. And anytime you try to get offense off of on Whittaker, Whittaker would meet him in the middle, almost like the car crash that we talk about, and he would disrupt Israel's rhythm. And I think that's why Israel was not having the same kind of success that we've seen against other opponents. Then in the second round, I actually thought that Whittaker was winning that whole round again until he got dropped. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Adesanya. Great performance, great finish, but I wasn't all that impressed with him.
Okay.
And that could be because Whittaker is just a difficult style to fight. You know what I'm saying?
What impressed me most about Adesanya is, first of all, his UFC career is short. I mean, what is it, 2 years? Pretty much?
Yeah. He's what he's done and the amount of time that he's done it in is crazy impressive.
It's Jon Jones-ish, but Jones did it at 22 or 21.
I think. It's a little Conor McGregor-esque.
Yes.
His rise.
Well, all three of them. If you look at Jon Jones, you look at Conor, you look at Ronda's a little bit different because she was Strike Force-ish, but you look at her. If you look at those really impressive greats in the sport, and this is actually what I want to talk about, is what impresses me with Adesanya is his mindset.
Yes.
You hear him talk, even before the Kelvin Gastelum fight, before, he's already won the championship. Years ago, when he got into the UFC, in his mind, you watch interviews with him, he's already won, he's already the world champion, he's already defended, everyone else is not on his level, he is better than everyone. And you see that mindset, and Conor used to say the same thing. Yep. He would, basically, you will it into fruition. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's either... you see people at a young age, not even a young age, but like young in their career, early in their career, talking like that. Most people think they're crazy. It sounds like delusions of grandeur. It sounds like this is a crazy person. Oh, I'm going to go be the UFC champion. Yeah, sure you are. How many people say that? And the only thing that separates them from delusions of grandeur and a world champion is actually accomplishing it.
Right.
But the mindset is the same. As you get some of these people, and you see them, and that is the mindset of a champion. You almost have to be a little weird, and people almost have to think you're a little crazy,
right?
Until you do it. Yes, everyone else, like you believe in yourself, and they know that you're doing it, but other people just don't see it. And to other people, it sounds crazy. It looks crazy, but it's not. It's real.
Right. There's a video that came out after Israel beat Whittaker. And it was an old shot of him winning a belt in a smaller organization. I think it was called PFC or something like that. And in the interview, the post-fight interview in the cage, he says, "Hey guys, I promise you, in a couple years' time, this P is going to be a U," and he was pointing at his belt. So that's pretty cool, And then even Conor, long before Conor was ever champion, somebody was asking him about what his opinions were on where he ranked in the ranking system, and he said, "I don't care about the UFC's ranking system. I'm number one in my eyes."
Yeah, see, and that's it.
That's the kind of mindset that you have to have.
You've got to have that beforehand, and I don't know. Everybody that believes they're going to be a world champion, whether it's MMA or in anything, is not going to accomplish that goal. But I would hazard to guess that everyone who has become a world champion in anything has thought that way.
Absolutely. I think you have to. I think if you are not thinking that way, you're in the wrong sport.
Yes. But not only MMA, anything.
The wrong field.
Yes. Whether you are going to be the best artificial intelligence programmer on the planet, or whether you're going to come up with a new heart valve. Like, people say it can't be done, and then you go and do it. Yeah, and Israel had that. He had that mindset, and you see that, and you see that type of mindset. And you just have to appreciate that. Again, you don't always know it at the time watching fights, but then you see this stuff afterwards, and you're like,
Right.
gosh, they did it. They told people they were going to do it. They told people they were that good.
And what's
they
cool
did it.
about his story is that after the fight, he said, I sat up there in the nosebleeds. You know, I went from the nosebleeds to making his nosebleed.
I think,
and
actually-
he watched Whittaker fight when he was there.
Yes.
So, I mean, how cool is that to be in the nosebleeds watching the champion who a couple years later you're going to end up fighting and beating in that same
and
arena?
taking his belt from
Right.
him. Man, so Israel's got a big, tough task ahead of him. He's got Paulo,
Yeah.
Costa coming up. And Paulo's a monster. They're two undefeated guys. Paulo's what, 15-0, 16-0, something like that.
Yeah,
He just
something
beat
like
Yoel. Paulo's got the power, but does he have the cardio? And
That's what I wonder.
the
You know, that
trick.
dude's a big, muscular, explosive guy, but to fuel those muscles takes a lot of
Yes.
oxygen. You know, we see those types of people slow down.
I'm curious how that fight goes. You know, again, Paulo, not to say Paulo can't beat him, but Paulo has to fight him strategically and differently than he's fought in the past.
And I wonder if that'll help him because he'll feel like he's in better shape and will be able to fight longer, or if that'll hurt him because he's going to have to completely change his style. He's got a very explosive style, and that might be his greatest weapon against Adesanya. But if he tries to slow everything down, that might play more into Israel's favor.
A pit bull is a pit bull. And a pit bull can only pretend to be a Great Dane for so long before
Right.
it's like, I'm a pit bull, I need to bite stuff. And then, all right, but I waited too long, now I'm tired.
Right.
Now
so
I need a nap.
Not to say that Paulo can't win that fight, but I wonder if his greatest chances are going to be between rounds 1 and 3, and then anything after that, if Israel's going to have a field day and just start picking them apart and moving and pop
I
shotting.
think you're right. And maybe that's the way to go. Maybe you don't try and last 15 minutes. Maybe you go
Take him out early.
Maybe, hey, I've got 10 minutes of fight. Let's go try and get this guy out.
Right.
10 minutes. After
Let's see
that,
what
we'll
happens.
reassess, and if we're still there, we're still there.
Right.
People are talking about Jon Jones already, and I don't know that Adesanya is ready for Jon Jones. One, Jon Jones is as tall as Adesanya. Adesanya, we have not seen fight anybody as tall as Jones, as tall as himself. Jones is tested with taller people. He fought Gustafsson twice. He fought OSP. He fought, he's fought taller guys. But not only can he strike, but he's going to take anybody. He took Daniel Cormier down.
Right.
Come on. If he wants to take Adesanya down, he's taking him down.
He's the GOAT, man. He's the GOAT.
I think Adesanya needs to look like he's very good, but let's not get it twisted. You have had some very favorable matchups to get you to where it's like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is phenomenal. He did not have the hardest road to that title. He fought strikers. He outstruck strikers.
He fought guys who would take the fight on short notice.
Yes.
Chad Mendes. When you look at, it's funny, when you look at Conor's career, the stars kind of aligned
They
for him,
aligned.
and
They
then
did.
everything worked out the perfect time. Not to take anything away from him.
Nothing
He still
at
had
all.
to show up. He still had to perform.
Yep.
He is great with the way he self-promotes, all that kind of stuff. That's all him.
And he's a phenomenal fighter.
And he's a phenomenal fighter.
But
the stars kind of aligned a little bit.
aligned. There were matchups. He got Mendes, a D1 All-American, on 2 weeks' notice.
Right.
When he Mendes took him down in that first round and
Ragdolled him.
got
Let's be honest.
tired. And
I actually thought that even if you go back and watch that fight, I actually thought that Mendes even won the exchanges on the feet.
Really? I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, because I went back and I watched that, and because I remember thinking, of course you think about Conor putting him away, landing that big left hand to end the fight. But if you watch him in that first round, he was actually rolling in, faking his shots, landing some big overhands.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
And then would shoot in, pick up Conor, slam him. So, anyways, we're getting off topic, but yeah.
But yeah, so I think Adesanya needs to work on his wrestling, because I think that's
Will play a factor in that
that'll
fight.
play a factor. And we'll see what happens. But I'm excited to see him fight again. I'm excited to see his fight with Paulo, because that's not going to be boring. Because
No. Israel's never been in a boring fight. Paulo's never been in a boring fight.
we say that, and now they're going to be in a boring fight. It's always those type of people, those matchups you're expecting just fireworks and death, and then they just sit there and stare at each other for 15
We'll
minutes.
see. Hopefully not. Actually, this year has been a great year of fights.
It's been good.
I don't remember the last time watching a card and being super disappointed.
Yeah.
I remember the last fight that I thought, oh man, this is going to be an excellent fight because these two guys are both scrappy. It was Pettis and Diaz, and they didn't disappoint either.
Can't be mad about that.
You can't be mad about it. And those two, you look at them and you're like, they've never been in a boring fight. Hopefully they don't start now, and they didn't. And I don't think that Paulo and Israel will, start being in boring fights either.
I don't think so. But, who knows? Now we've got on that card as well was Dan Hooker and Iaquinta.
Yeah.
And that shocked the hell out of me.
Me too.
Iaquinta is tough. He's good. I've trained with him a little bit, not a ton in the past, but I know him, so I'm a little biased. He wrestled in junior college. And
Durable.
Dan Hooker, he's good. I've seen him fight. His last loss was Edson Barbosa, got hit to the body. Looking at him, that I thought was really the deciding factor is he has 8 losses on his record, which might not seem like a lot, might not seem crazy. I think he's 17-8. Don't quote me on that. I think he's somewhere around there. But 8 losses, generally, you don't come back from. You're not going to be like a title contender. You're already the guy. You win some, you lose some after that. You put on fights. Try and do is, and again, this is definitely more in boxing than it is in MMA. MMA, we see this a little bit. You've got George Masvidal, Nate Diaz. Their careers are resurgent, and they've got 8, 10, 12 losses on the record. So it's not to say that it can't happen. We just don't see it as much. And to see that, and then to see the performance, he fought like he was an undefeated fighter. Yeah. And he picked Al apart from start to. Al got some licks in. He got some licks in here and there.
Specifically round 2, he landed a couple big overhand rights that landed clean.
But at no point after the first 3 minutes of that fight was it who's going to win this fight.
It wasn't even competitive, and that's what surprised me because Al is such a tough dude.
And not only standing, Hooker looked great. On the ground, he was defending the shots. He was actually, at one point...
He was doing the truck series.
Yes.
The truck series.
He did this whole series where he's taking his back and shoving him down. At one point, Al went for a single leg, and they hit the mat, and Hooker's elbowing him.
Yes.
And Al was trying to get away, but Hooker was actually pinching his arms with his leg and trapping him. Just really phenomenal performance.
That's some high IQ fighting right there.
That was
beautiful.
That was it. What does Dan Hooker do now?
Man, I think that after this, Dan Hooker should take maybe a top 10, at least top 5 guy now.
Yeah. But Al must have been 5 or 6.
He had to be up there. So Al fought Habib, and then he fought lost. Then he fought Cerrone, lost. So I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to double check where that put him in the rankings. But with the performance like that, I would love to see Hooker fight a top 5 competitor in that division. He was a sharpshooter, and what was so impressive about him was how calm he was the entire fight.
He was asleep out there.
Yeah, he was just barely breathing.
It's like he's playing a video game. He's just like, all right, I'm doing this.
In fact, I almost wish that I saw a little bit, because I remember when he dropped, I think it was round 3, he dropped Al, and I remember thinking like, oh, he's gonna put it on him now,
and he didn't.
He drops him, and he strolls over to him, gets in his half guard, starts landing some elbows, but he almost gave Al time to recover. Maybe it's because of the respect that he had for Al, knowing how tough of a guy he is. He didn't want to overexert his energy, but yeah, he was just so calm and composed out there. It was really an impressive performance.
I think Hooker. The bad thing about Hooker, not really a bad thing about Hooker, is that he fought on an Australia card, which probably didn't get the biggest exposure. And he's tough as nails, especially after seeing that. People are not going to want to fight him. So I have a feeling he's going to have to start calling out some people, start talking some trash. He tried to get Poirier after that. Poirier was like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
Might not be a bad idea for him to turn it down. But you want to fight, if you're going to fight somebody as tough as Hooker, you want to get paid for it.
You want to get paid for it, and you want to be able to kind of make a name for yourself off of that fight and draw attention. And I don't know if somebody accepting a fight with Hooker, if there's not a lot of bad blood or trash talking, would get people excited.
Yeah, especially with somebody being that dangerous.
Exactly, because people just wouldn't find it worth it.
You're not known, because what'll happen is really Hooker's going to be building his name off of them.
Yes.
Win, lose, or draw, everybody who fights Hooker has everything to lose.
That's why Poirier's like, Hooker who? I want to fight the Irishman. It just makes more sense.
People want to be paid.
Exactly.
Man, so yeah, hopefully Al rebounds. Hopefully Hooker can find that fight. Hopefully he can find a big fight with a big name that does something for him.
I'm curious what Al does next, only because I know he has his hands in a lot of other pots outside of fighting. He's big into real estate out there, and so I'm just curious, is his mind really in it, especially 3 losses in a row now? What does he do? Does he consider retiring, or does he take another fight and then what, So I'm curious.
We'll see. And then my favorite fight of the card is what is Rydell's first name?
You're talking about Riddell and Malarkey.
Malarkey.
What a fight. Really, what a round. Round
That
3?
was one of my favorite rounds I've ever seen in my life.
I don't know if that fight, it was a great fight, start to finish, but I don't know if that fight would be in contention for fight of the year or not, but maybe round of the year.
Round of the year.
Round 3 was insane.
I was telling you earlier, this word is not in my lexicon. I don't use this word. This isn't something that I say a lot. And if you had to use one word to define that fight, it would be slobber knocker. There's nothing else. There's no other word or series of words that would
fits
describe
that fight
it
so perfectly.
That was it. And those two was not the most technical thing I've ever seen, not the most high level, but holy shit, that was fun.
It was a dog
fight.
fight.
Those guys just fought tooth and nail, falling all over.
They dropped each other. They shot in on each other. They got back up and dropped each other again. With the last 5 seconds left, they both kind of sat up thinking that the round was almost over. Riddell lands a short little right hook right to the jaw.
That was my favorite fight in a long time. If you guys haven't seen that fight, go. I think it was probably on the early Fight Pass. Google it. Go to Fight Pass. Search it. I'm sure you can find it on the internet. Man, that fight was awesome.
Riddell, Malarkey. What a fight.
First names, we don't even know their first names. It's inconsequential. Find the damn fight, look it up.
It was a good one.
And just sit down for 15 minutes and enjoy.
And if you don't have 15 minutes and you have 5, watch the last round.
Just watch that last round. Get to the earlier rounds later. Then what do we have? So we had fights last weekend.
Yes.
And we talked about Joanna a little bit. We'll kind of skim over that, like I said. That was, I think more than anything, that was Joanna's back.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say there. Joanna did what Joanna does. It was a 5-round fight, and she looked like a technician out there. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think that Joanna has some of not only the best striking in female and women's MMA, but some of the best striking in MMA, period. Specifically, even in the UFC. That girl is so technical. It's so much fun to watch, and I feel like I learn something every time I see her fight.
Are you just going on a PC crusade right now? Just women's lib, Me Too movement.
You got to be careful these days. I don't know who's going to listen to this, and I still want to have a promising career. I don't want anyone, to. Anyways, but
I don't know. I do think she has phenomenal striking, and I actually agree that it's probably some of the best in the UFC, not just in the women's division. My only issue with Joanna's striking is that she throws so much volume, and she's always worried about the next thing that I would like to see her sit down on her punches and just she lands 14 punches in a row. Lower that output to 7 punches in a row and put a little power behind it. Just stamp it a little bit. That's it. I think if she were to just sit down, it's actually my criticism of Dominic Cruz. I've always thought he had really good striking. He moves out of the way. He doesn't get hit with a lot. If he were to just sit down on a couple of things, not try and move so much, still move, just a little bit here and there.
But just when he does throw, turn his hips over a little bit more, plant his feet a little bit.
I think that would make all of the difference in the world. And Joanna is a dominant fighter, but she's not a finisher.
That would be the only critique. If she went out there, because when you watch Joanna fight, unless her opponent finishes the fight, you know it's going to be a 5-rounder.
Yes, it's a 5-rounder.
And if she was able to start putting some of these women away, then she would just, that would elevate her game incredibly.
Yes, and that's what I think it is. I think Joanna's phenomenal. Love watching her fight. I actually think she's probably my most enjoyable women's MMA fighter to watch. I love watching her fight. She's a machine. She's a grinder. She's mentally tough. I just wish that she would she's so dominant. In this last fight, you're beating somebody clearly as much as you can beat somebody. Try and put them away a little bit. Yeah. Try and put that stamp down.
I agree. Because then you start putting her in the Shevchenko category. You watch Shevchenko, she's a machine. She does everything she's like Joanna, very, very dominant, great cardio, has a lot of output. But she'll put women away.
She's putting people away.
Yeah, she'll switch a switch kick to the head, and then flatline people, and you just never know when that's coming. With Joanna, that's never something. You're not sitting on the edge of your seat wondering when the finish is going to happen. You kind of sit back and admire the performance.
Yes, see, that's exactly it. And I feel like if you know that somebody is not going to finish a fight, it's Demetrius Johnson.
Right.
Phenomenal performances, so dominant. You kind of, you almost start daydreaming a little bit as you're watching the fight. You find yourself talking with your friends.
You're checking your phone. Looking back up.
Exactly. I want to know that a fight could end at any point.
That's what makes it exciting.
I want to know when the finish occurs. I don't want to know that at the end of 25 minutes, there's a decision.
Right.
I want to go, this fight could end. Look at Paulo Costa. That fight went 3 rounds.
Yeah.
probably 74 times in that fight. You thought, oh, it's over. Oh, it's over. Oh, it's over.
Right. And you couldn't look away.
Yes, and that's what I want to see.
Because you're afraid if you look away for 2 seconds, you're going to miss something.
Now, that said, everybody doesn't fight that way. And I'm armchair quarterbacking it over here like, hey, Brady, just throw Hail Marys the whole time. Like, wow, we got to move the ball.
But we're saying, in a perfect world, if she put a stamp on some of her strikes more, I think she could put people away.
She's good enough to do it.
I don't think that what we're saying is out of the realm of possibility for her. I think if she just turned her hips over a little bit more, planted her feet, and then stuck some of those shots, she could put women away.
Some people out.
Yeah.
Now, on that card as well, we had Cub Swanson, Kron Gracie.
Which turned out to be a pretty damn good fight.
Way better fight than I thought it was going to be.
Me too.
And I was 100% wrong. I thought... So, sorry, Cub, if you're listening, which you're probably not. I feel like Cub finds a way to lose. And I've said that before. And he'll be dominating fights, and then he loses. He mentally slips. He lets people beat him that should not beat him. And he's done that again and again and again. And for that reason, and seeing the Ortega fight... I really thought Kron was going to get a submission, and it was going to be a good, tough fight, and then Kron gets a submission somehow.
I thought the same, and I referenced back to the Ortega fight, and I thought, you know what, as soon as Kron gets a hold of him, just like Ortega did, he's going to find that neck, or he's going to end up dragging him to the mat and taking his back.
Now,
and it didn't happen.
Before we analyze it further, one, of course, that did not happen. Did we just see Kron exposed?
Man, I think Kron was
not exposed, but was sort of. Is the blueprint there? Is everybody going to follow that blueprint from here on out?
I don't know if Cub exposed Kron or if Kron just had a terrible game plan. If his game plan was to try to strike with Cub, who is known for his striking, and that's his strength, I don't know what he was expecting to happen. And then if he thought he was just going to pull guard on Cub in rounds 2 and 3 where they're already sweating and slippery, to me, that's just not having a high fight IQ. If he was going to pull guard, he should have done it in round 1.
Yes. Well, the thing that gets me with Kron, it gets me with any jiu-jitsu guy. How many times have we seen world championship jiu-jitsu not translate to MMA?
Plenty.
And we see that because these are people that have been in MMA for years and years and years at this point. Why are you not focusing on your wrestling?
Right.
Like, my hands could be the best hands on the... Floyd Mayweather's hands, probably some of the best boxing we'll ever see. Take any top 10 boxer. They get taken down in 2 seconds. So then, of course, you get a good striker. They've got to work defense, takedown defense. You get a good jiu-jitsu guy, learn to freaking get a takedown. Like at this point, that's just laziness, sloppiness, or arrogance, or something. Why? I mean, Kron's been fighting for a few years now. I think he was 5-0 leading into this fight. Everybody knows that Kron is going to try and submit you.
Right.
Why are you not better at your takedowns?
Why didn't he do what he did against Alex Caceres? I mean, that was a picture-perfect, flawless performance. They closed the distance on each other. He ended up dragging him to the mat, taking his back, and choking him out. I expected that with Cub, but he never shot in. He turned it into a striking match. I think he shot in one time, and I think that was in round 3.
Round 2 or 3, yep.
And it was kind of one of those things where he kind of shot in out of desperation because things weren't really going so well for him on the feet. With all that said, he landed some cracks on Cub.
Well,
he definitely displayed heart and toughness, and he landed some shots.
What we learned is the second part of that is the toughness, is that he's got a Brian Ortega head. You could take, it was like Homer Simpsoned Cub.
Right,
Cub hit him with everything he had for as long as he could, and then was like, well, I'm tired now, and you didn't die.
Cub got tired from beating up Kron.
Yes.
And then Kron started landing his shots.
Kron was still in there swinging and throwing down. He doesn't lack heart. He doesn't lack toughness. He lacks a skill set.
And a part of that, even though he's been competing in jiu-jitsu his whole life, a part of what we saw could just be a lack of MMA experience as well.
Maybe he jumped up too soon in competition. There are levels to this, and it doesn't matter how good of a wrestler. We saw with Aaron Pico.
Right.
Aaron Pico was a phenomenal wrestler. He was too damn young. They put him out there against killers too early, and he got hurt, and he got knocked out, and probably ruined his career. And he's still young, but I think he's 4-3 now. And this is supposed to be the second coming of every fighter on the planet. And if you go too soon, too fast, that's stuff that happens.
At this top level, yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what Kron does from here. I'm curious to see what he does, but I think he needs to switch some things. He can't zombie walk at people.
Does he make adjustments, or does he do it again?
I think he makes adjustments.
No, I'm saying that's what it'll be fun for us to see. Like, next time we see Kron fight.
I think he has to make adjustments because people are going to go, oh, dude, if this guy's not even going to shoot in on me, all I got to do is worry about a guard pull?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take my
pretty
chances.
Easy fight at that point.
Right.
Yep. As long as you know the fight, you can prepare for it.
And again, like what I don't get is if you're going to pull guard, do so when you guys are both dry. Don't do it when you guys are both sweating. You're sliding off of each other. Like the grips aren't there. This isn't gi jiu-jitsu, you know? So, yeah, I think it was just maybe a lack of experience. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Where does Cub go from here?
I was just gonna say I'm happy for Cub.
I'm happy for Cub.
He needed this win.
He needed a win, but I don't know that this win actually does anything for him. Like I think he needed a win because he was talking about retirement. He'd lost a couple in a row, so you need a win just so you don't get cut. But I don't think that actually did anything for him in terms of rankings, moving up, moving down. I think that was this was a test. Am I still going to fight? Am I going to get cut? What's going to happen? Or am I still here? And I think what happened was I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I still can fight. But now he's going to need a fight. I think his next fight, he'll probably take another step up in competition. Yeah. And then fight somebody. And then we'll kind of see, like, all right, are we still, is he really back or is he not?
Yeah. And the thing with Cub is he's kind of been the gatekeeper for the featherweight division. Like, Ortega fought him, and that was like Ortega's big test. Yes. Ortega ended up winning, and then that kind of put him up for title contention. I think he fought Frankie after that. Right after that. Which is a big, I mean, you go from Cub, and then you're fighting Frankie Edgar, and Frankie's a beast, you know, and then he beat him, and then he fought Max Holloway for the title. I think this is going to be a situation similar for Kron. Had Kron beaten Cub, I think that would have leveled him up.
I think he would have gotten a much bigger fight. He's not getting a title fight off that, but
no,
now
not a title fight, but you start putting him in the conversation for title contenders.
Yeah, he starts picking up some fights, and he's got a good name. He's got a good story. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu people out there just salivating over.
A lot of history with the Gracie family and the UFC and MMA.
You know, the UFC would want to see Kron do well. They want to see him do well.
So Cub has kind of been the gatekeeper, and now he beat Kron, and so now it's like, okay, well, who does he fight next? You know, in that division. But it's definitely going to be a step up. And then, you know, the thing is with Cub is I think he's just a little bit past his prime. I don't honestly, I don't think I'll ever see him fight. I don't think we'll ever see him fight again for a title. But beating Kron, it was a much needed win for him. Yeah, I'm happy he got it.
I think it keeps him busy. It keeps him in the sport.
And you know what? It's not the biggest win as far as like you know, he didn't beat this incredible killer, you know, this guy who's ranked top 3 and then it puts him in title contention. But he beat Kron Gracie, who had a lot of hype. Who had a lot of hype. So he kind of derailed that hype train. And sometimes
I'm glad you said that.
Sometimes that could
derail the hype train.
Yeah, you know, and that could do a lot for somebody's career because there are a lot of eyes on Kron. Everyone wants to see what he's going to do. And instead of seeing Kron succeed, they saw Cub succeed, and so it just elevates Cub in everybody else's eyes.
This weekend we've got a couple of fights. We've got Jair and Stevenson we touched on. And then we have Dominic and Weidman. The Jair thing, that is so interesting to me. The fight, I honestly didn't care about the fight. I mean, I didn't care about it. I thought, all right, this is going to be a good fight. When it was originally done in Mexico City, I thought, you know, it's going to be a fun fight. Jair's wild. Stevens is always tough. He's, you know, never in a, you know, that type of guy that's never in a boring fight. Now with the history with Jair and Stevens, just that weirdness, I kind of want to see this play out now. I want to see if this is like, if it's a gritty, mean fight.
Well, look at exactly what you just said. You didn't care about it before, but you care about it now. There's that whole thing. I don't know if you saw, the UFC posted a video, and they were doing a bunch of different videos for, you know, because they're celebrating their 25th anniversary. One of their videos is called Bad Blood, Good Business, and it basically goes through all the different rivalries of different, you know, UFC fighters over the years, and now you care. There's some bad blood. There's some history. Bad blood, good business. Now you want to watch, right? And that's something that Conor has done so well. Yeah. You know, that was something that Chael Sonnen did really well. But yeah, I think if I'm giving a prediction for this fight, I think I got to go with Jair. I think that Jair is just, he's wild. He's crazy. He's very, very unique in his approach. And I think that Stevens, I like Stevens. Stevens is tough, but he's kind of a one-trick pony with his striking. You got to watch out for his hooks. Yep. You know he's going to be a powerhouse. He's going to come and he's going to drop his head and he's going to swing overhand rights, overhand lefts. And I think that Jair's movement and his unorthodox style is going to be able to kind of frustrate Stevens. And Jair's going to land big shots.
I think you're right on that. And what you touched on was the footwork, the movement. Stevens does not. He does well when people stand there and fight him toe-to-toe. he does not do well when people make him chase them. And we saw that with Zabit. Zabit's not a striker, and he clowned Steven striking. Not like he beat him up and hurt him, but Stevens just couldn't get his footing, was swinging, hitting air, because Zabit would just left, right, lateral movement, just wouldn't stand in front of him and go. And I think...
And Zabit's a good striker. I wouldn't say he's a bad striker, but I don't think he's
not like
Jair
leveling
Rodriguez.
up. Exactly. And so for that reason, I think outside of a lucky... I don't want to say lucky, outside of a knockout, outside of, kind of swinging, catching him, clipping him. If it goes the distance, I think Jair is going to kind of piece him apart. And it's not in a... I don't think it's going to be the most, like a super dominant... I wouldn't be surprised to be a Zabit type of thing, where it's not as exciting as we expect it to be. There's not as much stuff as we expect it to be. But Jair beats Stevens kind of decidedly with just footwork and movement and pop shotting.
Yeah, I pretty much see the same. As far as Weidman goes, who do you have with that Weidman-Reyes fight?
Man, I want to go with Weidman, but I can't. And I can't because of the Weidman that we've seen lately. I think Weidman's probably the better fighter. I think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I think he's got the better experience. He's fought the better opponents. And he's not the same fighter he was when he won the title.
Right.
He's had some surgeries. He's had some time off. He's gotten knocked out. He's a little bit slower, and we just haven't seen him. Now, maybe this is his coming out party again, and he gets back up to where he once was. Based on his last couple of performances, I think you get those young, testosterone-filled, up-and-comer guys that are going to come at you and, fight you tooth and nail. And that's the kryptonite of a older seasoned vet that doesn't have that. If he was fighting another older seasoned vet, hey, you kind of pop shot, you move, you this, you that.
Kind of like his fight with Jair.
Yes. Yep, but you get a guy just swinging at you, knocking people out right there, fighting you tooth and nail. I don't think it's a technique thing. I don't think it's anything like that. I think Dominic Reyes is hungry and he's young. And there's a reason why we've got a short shelf life as fighters, and it's a testosterone thing, it's a hunger thing, and I think Reyes is probably going to end up winning it.
That's a good prediction, and against my better judgment, because I feel like I should agree with you. That's a good pick. And I kind of feel like it's stupid for me to go with Weidman, but I think I'm going to go with Weidman. I think he's going to have that experience. He's used to these really big fights. He's been in there with the who's who of that division. I think he's going to press Reyes. I think he's going to turn into a wrestling match. I don't think he's going to strike with Reyes. I don't think he wants this to be a striking match because of everything that you just said, but I think he's going to be able to close the distance on him. Weidman's a great wrestler, and I just think that he's going to be able to control the fight, even if it's just pressing Reyes against the cage, dragging him down, and that's kind of how I see the fight going.
I hope so. I hope this isn't the last we've seen of Weidman.
He needs this win to still be relevant in the division.
He needs this win like Cub Swanson needed his win.
Exactly, because it's a big fight for both of them. If Reyes wins this fight, then you kind of start looking at him as being a title contender.
Yep.
If Weidman loses his fight, it's kind of like he loses his relevancy.
He might be done.
Absolutely. It's like, what's next for him at that point?
If Weidman wins this fight, this doesn't put him back in title contender. Maybe it does because he's a former contender. So maybe it does what he's hoping it does. It brings him back up there.
Keeps him relevant in the division.
Yes, really, it just keeps him in the game, in the sport. If
not, people are going to start forgetting about him. And
exactly.
I feel like people are kind of starting to get there already.
I think you're right. He needs this win to still fight. All right, so you're going with Weidman.
Yeah.
I'm going with Reyes, and I hope I'm wrong. But that's all the time we have for today. Everyone out there, you guys, please subscribe, like, share, all of that weird social media stuff that we do, and comment. Let's hear your comments. I want to know if you think our predictions are insane, if we're just absolutely out of our minds. Do we have any idea what we're doing here? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know. I'm curious. Kamuela, as always, thanks for coming on,
Thanks
man.
for having me.